Hey guys, this week I would like to talk about the idea of right versus wrong. I think something that comes up a lot in our Dota games and has been something I've been thinking a lot about in the last few months. And the reason why I felt the need to make this video was because there's been random times where, like in my last week's video, I say, "Oh wait, I don't think about right and wrong," and people are like, "What do you mean by this?" Like the comment section, "What do you mean by this?" And there's times where I feel like people are talking in right and wrong when talking about my Dota games that they're watching, when they're talking about their teammates and their Dota games, and I feel the need to make this video in order to explain to you how I see this in a way that has really helped me more clearly fix my mistakes when I'm in a Dota game, be more open minded to what's going on, be more aware, and just overall have a more pleasant experience playing Dota, which also means winning more. So, what's interesting is on my stream like a day or two ago, somebody asked me, ESJ, is it ever correct to see things as objectively right or wrong? And they were specifically talking about a Dota game. But the reason why, okay, I guess first and foremost, I would encourage you to be open minded about the assertion that viewing things as right and wrong is just simply not good for you. And it's not that there's no such thing as right or wrong, but it's more that when I look at my decisions, when I look at other people's decisions in a Dota game, rather than labeling it as right or wrong, I just think there's a better way. There's simply a right way. No, I'm kidding. To analyze these scenarios. So, why am I even like talking about this in the first place? The drawback of thinking about things as right or wrong is that it's very black and white. It's very much lacking nuanced thinking where something could be like 80% good and you still think it's wrong. Or somebody else, it could be 80% right, good, and they think it's right. And so when I say that somebody else is right or wrong, what that means is that I'm done learning. I can no longer approach this situation with an open mind. And when I say that I'm right or wrong, then say I think I'm right, my decision in the game, and somebody else in the game has a different decision and they also think they are right. This leads to a lot of arguments, a lot of toxicity, and a lot of frustration. And the whole idea about this is that there's no one size fits all in such a complex system such as Dota. And there are going to be times where both of you have good ideas that could work, but they're not aligned. And when you're thinking about right or wrong, if you think in right or wrong in these cases, there will be a huge argument when there is merit to both of your ideas. And so this situation, in my experience, happens a lot in Dota games. And so often I hear the questions like, how do I get my teammates to do the right thing? Or how do I get them to do what I want them to do? And all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, the commonality amongst all these situations is that the person who's asking me the question, somewhere in their question, they're like, am I right or am I wrong? Like, BSJ, tell me, am I right or wrong? I just need you to tell me. And I'm like, well, that's kind of besides the point because I think your idea has merit, and I also think the other guy's idea has merit. Like maybe there is an option to go high ground here. Maybe it is better to wait till next Roshan spawn. Maybe both of these have merit, and maybe one of them is like slightly better than the other this time around. But there's also so many factors that go into it, and a lot of times it just ends up being hindsight 2020. So if I'm telling you that I think it's not in your best interest to assess your decisions or your teammates' decisions as right or wrong, what am I telling you? And the peaceful way, meaning that I feel like my brain is at ease a lot more. I feel like I'm judging other people a lot more. I'm keeping my composure a lot better. I'm making more logical, sound decisions, is to acknowledge that every person is doing what they think to be the best answer that they know how at the time. So rather than is my answer right or wrong, I can just assert that this is the best that I know how to do right now. And what that does is it then kind of automatically transitions you into a question when somebody else disagrees with you or when things don't go as planned, which is there a better way to do what I'm trying to do right now? The way that I like to do it right now is how I believe it is best done with the knowledge that I had up until this point. But is there something in this situation that this person is saying that I might have missed, that might change my mind, that might tip the balances one way or the other? And that allows you to adjust over time. It allows you to interpret contextual clues that will really, if you think about this over the course of like hundreds of games, thousands of games, you're going to have little tweaks to your approach that will just really add up. It's like that 1%, compound interest over time. And my thought is that when you're thinking about it as right or wrong, it's like, isn't it right to go high ground here? What I find a lot of people doing is they're like, well, the people that are telling me not to go high ground, they want to Rosh and I want to go high ground, or vice versa. And then they think that BSJ, is it correct to go high ground or is it correct to go Rosh? And one of my recent shorts, it was actually like, well, it's actually better to go do this. So not only are they thinking about it right or wrong, but they're also usually only looking at a very limited scope of their options in this scenario. So it's like, if your goal to go high ground, like the better question is, what am I trying to do here? Like, this is the best way for me to accomplish X. And the answer is not to go high ground. Like, that's not what you're trying to accomplish. Perhaps the answer is, I'm trying to capitalize on a lead. I'm trying to force the enemy to come back to their base. I'm trying to apply pressure. I'm trying to end the game. Like, what is the reason that you want to go high ground in this like arbitrary example? And you are then asserting that this is the best thing I think to know how to do right now to end the game, to put pressure on the opponent, to capitalize on my lead. And it's like, if I think, oh, I'm trying to capitalize on my lead, the best thing I know how to do right now is go high ground. Does what the other person's saying also perhaps capitalize on a lead, right? How does theirs differ from mine? Like, what are they trying to accomplish? Are they trying to out farm? Is that a way to capitalize on a lead? But the point is that when you ask what you're trying to accomplish by going high ground or whatever else you're trying to do, you'll see just through this line of questioning that there's at least several other options in every circumstance for how you can go about this. And the one that you're choosing to do that you currently think is right is actually just the best thing you know how to do to accomplish that thing right now. So when somebody asks me the question, is it ever correct to look at the game as right or wrong? And it's like, I don't see the benefit. It's not that I'm telling you it's wrong to do that, but I don't see the benefit of saying something is right or wrong other than basically giving myself the ability to wrap up that chapter. I know exactly what to do in that scenario. And that may feel good, but it doesn't result in like growth over time or improvement like at all, because you've just closed your mind off to thinking about this decision any further in any circumstance that remotely looks like this. You're like, every time this looks like this, I'm going to do that. Am I right or wrong? And it's like, and if I tell you you're wrong, like there's a better option, then perhaps you would never go high ground again in that exact scenario. But perhaps it is better to capitalize on the lead by going high ground. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's so much nuance to this that if you're looking for the right or wrong answer to a given situation, the odds of that exact situation coming up again are pretty low. You're removing your pattern recognition skill. You're actually negating, I would say. You're nullifying your pattern recognition skill and actually turning it into overgeneralization and broadly applying stuff that just shouldn't, like, there's going to be times where it just shouldn't be applied. Like, what you're saying, it's relevant in the scenario you learned it, but it's not relevant in the current one you're in. And that's why I'm pretty much boiling it down to, if you say right or wrong, you're no longer thinking, what am I trying to accomplish? What is the other guy trying to accomplish? Is there merit to both of what we're doing? And this just leads to growth. So there's going to be times in my future videos when I'm, especially in this channel, where I'm giving you like my stream of thought, my stream of consciousness, where I'll say something and I'll be like, no, I don't think about it as right or wrong. Like, and what I'm trying to do is keep an open mind about the way I'm approaching something. Like, if I say it's right or wrong, I've closed the chapter. I've like said, I no longer have to think about this ever again. And I found there's a lot of power in the words that we use. And that if you're trying to get better at the game and have a clear system for how you play the game, I simply think that removing the use of right and wrong in the way that you describe your actions and other people's actions, and shifting it to, this is the best thing I know how to do, I'm going to assume that's the best thing they know how to do, and analyze the situation from there. Because if you say the best, that's like a sliding scale. There could be things slightly worse, slightly better, way better. That's a sliding scale. It's not a yes or no. And I guess it's just a general rule of thumb. I think if you're creating a yes or no black and white scenario, that is not going to help you learn very much when you're asking your questions. I guess as a last little bonus tidbit to follow up on what I just said, when you guys are asking yourselves questions in the middle of the game, that's how I teach people. I coach people on how to ask themselves better questions. I want you to think about the questions you're asking yourself in your games or about your games and think, is this a yes or no answer, or is it an open-ended question? And if it's an open-ended question, it's almost certainly helping you infinitely more than a yes or no question. The case in point example that I like to use is when people send me a replay and say, was there anything I could have done to win this game? That's a yes or no question. That's a very black and white question, and quite frankly irrelevant, because there's a million factors that go on in a Dota game outside of your control that you have no impact on. And by asking a question like that about things you cannot control, you're just going to get really frustrated. And it's also subjective, and there's no way to prove to you that those factors add up to an unwinnable game. That's just an opinion. Now, the question is that we could replace, was there anything I could have done to win this game? It's quite simple. Was there anything I could have done better this game? Was there a CS that I missed? Was there an ability that I didn't cast properly? Was there an item I could have bought that I think would have been better? Because that's a growth mindset. Because regardless of win or loss, you will ask yourself this question, and it will help you to make small tweaks over time to your performance. While if you ask yourself the question, was there anything I could have done to win this game? You're not going to ask yourself that question when you win, which means that you're much less likely to improve and learn from anything when you win. And when you lose and you try to figure out the answer, there's going to be times where it's outside of your control and you get really frustrated. So I guess the whole story of this video is, under the premise of right and wrong, when it comes to asking yourself questions, when it comes to analyzing your games, when it comes to thinking about your real life, like everything that you do in your life, assessing it as right or wrong, I think, has very little to no benefit when it comes to reflecting and evaluating the way that you like to do things. So, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the little update from, what was today? November 7th, 2025. I'll see you guys in the next one.